Hello and welcome to the Gooners podcast, season 5, episode 68. It's an early evening podcast for once called The Birdman Giveth, and I think we will get to why that is in a little bit. But here's a little taste, the brand new one from Sebi. A picture of I almost called him Jay Leno because he's about as good of a keeper as Jay Leno at the moment, but. Mikey. Another week, another fiasco, another individual error leading directly to a goal and drop points. Another loss. Another week spent in the bottom half of the table. Another 24 VAR decisions that went against us that make absolutely no sense. But at least we have this to look forward to. We have a club where everyone can get behind the owner and the manager. And there's no, at least we're all united in our support of the structure of our team. So one thing we do also have is another year with Spurs winning absolutely fuck all. Another crying Son, another crying Kane. A lot of people hate the FA, but I love the FA because Spurs have won sweet FA in like the last 25 years. So as far as the Gooners pod is concerned, though, Mikey, by the way, how you been? How you hanging in?
Fantastic, man. Keeping myself busy.
Your house awake now?
What was that?
Everyone in your house up for the day?
Yes, right on time. These early morning ones, for me, early morning, it's only 11 o'clock over here. I'm wide awake at like 4 a.m, right? I tiptoe around until the rest of the family wakes up. So like Mike is like, hey, dude, can you pot at 11? I'm like, reluctantly, yeah, if I make enough noise in the kitchen, I might be able to wake up my wife and kids, and I get to podcast.
Man, they are so your family's lazy AF is basically what you're saying.
Lazy AF, yes, and I can say that because she has you blocked, and she will never find us. So,
yes, that is the smartest thing that you've ever done. So we got two things, I almost gave it away. We got a rare thing happening today. Do you know what it is on this podcast? It's very rare, Mike.
It's very rare. Our anniversary?
No, it's 2 broken ducks.
February.
We have 2 breaking ducks.
Doubling down.
Those are 2 broken ducks. So first, the first time someone joins us on the pod, it's a broken duck appearance. And first, fighting out of the lower left-hand corner, we have a man who regularly appears on the Purely Arsenal podcast. We've done some time reviewing games together where I completely stole his spotlight on the Highbury squad together, although you were substantially more sober than I was at the moment. It's James Johnstone. Welcome to the pod.
Hiya. Yeah, hello. Nice to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. And next, fighting out of the lower right-hand corner, we have another podcaster, Gooner, all-around great guy. We've met and gotten to know each other a little bit over the last couple of weeks. You've been on our open mic post-game show, but it's great to have you on the main pod. It's Daniel Bailey, a.k.a. The Blind Gooner. Welcome to the pod, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's great to join you guys.
Well, it's great to have you, and we got a lot to talk about today. So let's get started, though, with before we talk about Arsenal, let's talk about each of you because we want to get to know our first-time guests a little bit better. So, James, we'll start with you. Purely Arsenal podcast. What's that about? Well, I can't tell from the name.
Yeah, the name's a bit of a giveaway. Basically, Jack, who hosts, it's mainly his podcast with Neil, who sadly at the moment is in Twitter jail. He shared some clips, and they finally called up. You can be racist on there. You can recruit for terrorist organizations on there, but you share a clip of something of the Premier League or any other sport, and if you're not the Premier League or that sport itself, you're banned. So, yeah, he's currently in the Twitter jail. We've got Anthony, who produces as well, and Michael on there as well. And, basically, I did that podcast many moons ago, before I was previously on Gooner Ramble with I know he's the man of the moment, Akil. He's everyone's favourite guy right now.
So you're mates with Waz then? I would imagine.
Yes,
then, huh?
yes.
Yeah, we don't get on so well.
No,
together,
I know a lot of people don't these days. He's not a name that gets thrown around.
Frankly, to be honest, I have not been particularly nice to him.
Fair enough.
I mean, look, he's rubbed me the wrong way for many years, and I was a complete ass. And once you're an ass to somebody, you might as well just keep going.
Yeah.
Ask him about me, and he'll either say, "Who the hell is that?" or "That guy's an absolute tosser."
Yeah.
I can't believe you went on his show.
I don't know if he's still got an active Twitter account. I think he took time away, or he's gone completely as well. So
that would be a gift.
I have no idea where he is. So if he is watching, hello. I'm
pretty sure he's not watching.
I never had any problems with you, Woz. If you are watching, I appreciate the tickets you got me a couple of times, and some of the times we spent together. But no, I know he's not particularly well liked or appreciated chap. But supposedly, I don't know how. People somehow quite like me. I'm doing all right. I haven't got a car to moan about players in. So I think if you can stay out of cars doing vlogs, you're pretty set in terms of
the irony is the irony is I think one of the last few times, or no, I think it was the finances show when the annual report came out about a month or so ago. Mike, you were joining us from your car, weren't you?
From my work truck, I joined you guys.
Yeah.
Your work truck. It was not your Datsun.
Not my Datsun. No. But,
So
I don't know.
Can
you blame Bellerin for the finances of the club? I don't know. Is he? Can you work him in there somehow?
Yeah, and you can
we didn't have to plant all these trees.
You can be very busy doing that. Too much so where you're grafting so hard you don't even have time to eat your sandwich. But that's another story altogether. So. What other things other than Arsenal do you talk about on Purely Arsenal?
All sorts. I think I'm mainly there for humour. So, I know it's not the open mic, so I'll keep the jokes to bare minimum tonight. I know it's not that show. I'm in there for. So
a Hispanic guy, a Jew, and a blind guy walk into a bar.
That's pretty much my role. That's my bag, and I make obscure references that some of the listeners get and some of the listeners don't. The Scottish listeners appreciate it. I do a lot of the old Scottish humour in there, so they like it.
And that podcast's been on for. I mean, it's I've seen it around for years. It's about time we started, interchanging, and we have a lot of top podcasts are friendly with. It's really not a competitive. It's a family kind of atmosphere, and I don't know why we've never really explored that until now. So let's make a point of that. So I mean, one more. If you end up just kind of organically going on to a different topic, like I don't know, boiling water, kettles, someone's mom. Do you immediately halt the broadcast and like, this is Purely Arsenal? We have to get back on topic. There is no room for this. It's
one of them. We'll start and then we'll slowly, gradually pull it back. We'll rein it in, but we'll get it back on track eventually.
Nice. So you were a little one around the end of the George Graham era, and probably by the time you were old enough to really be plugged into Arsenal, it was Arsene Wenger time. But tell us a little bit about your backstory with Arsenal, how you got into the club, and was it birthed to you or is it because of FIFA? Please tell me it's not because of FIFA.
No. So basically, my mother's side of the family, they're Arsenal ingrained through my father. So all my father's family lived in the area, brought up in the area, and they've been going since the 30s. So it's just been. So it was just right. Yeah. So it was rite of passage. It was like, you like this team or you don't like football. So initially my dad tried to get my older brother involved. He went a couple of times, but then he spent the majority of the time looking at the lights and just counting, taking that all in. He wasn't really a big football fan. I believe my first ever game was Paul Merson's testimonial, which was a weird one because I believe Gaza and Glenn Hoddle played for Arsenal during that game.
Oh, that is a weird thing.
Yeah. They played
a trivia question, like, how many games did Paul Gascoigne play for Arsenal?
Yeah, but no, from there I got involved, and then had a season ticket with my father from then on up. My first full season was the double year. So
98.
That was it was a good year to start. Funny enough, we talk about Highbury squad and Amanda, etc. She sat literally 2 or 3 rows behind where I was. So my ears have been bleeding ever since. From
oh my God, yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, at 50, 51, can you imagine her at 17? I used to tell her that, because when I was there in 88 to 90, I stood on the North Bank. And so I would have looked directly up to my left and seen her. And I keep telling her that I'm sure at some point I was probably walking behind her on Avenel Road, staring at her ass or something like that, not realizing that 45,000 years later we'd be podcasting together.
Yeah.
Great. Well, it's good to get to know you. Oh, the last thing, and Dan, we're going to spend just as much time getting to know you. The Twitter handle, LLCoolJames91. The 91 part's pretty clear, which makes me sick because you're not even 30 yet, or maybe you're just 30.
No, September.
No. I started university in 1991, but the LL Cool J reference, tell us where that came from.
Yeah, so basically, years and years ago, we finally got wireless internet in my house, and I was purchased Xbox Live for my Xbox 360. Didn't have a gamer tag. Tried multiple variations of my name. Just James Johnston, no. James Johnston 91, no. James 91, no. And then I have music on all the time when I play my games console, unless it's something I'm invested in. So like the last game I played that I was actually invested in was Red Dead Redemption 2. The majority of the time, volume's off and I'm listening to podcasts or music. And Rock the Bells was on at the time. And just in my head, I was just like, oh, LL Cool James, that will work. And that was it. Just bang. Yeah, it accepted it straight away. And it's been there ever since. I've just never really got away with it. I've had people. So are you like a big, are you a huge LL Cool J fan, or is it just that it happened? Yeah, no, as a middle class white man from Essex, hip hop is my main thing. It's like chalk and cheese. I had a big loss the other week with DMX. I watched his procession yesterday. Very emotional watching that. It was very good as well. I thought it was amazing where they got all the bikes and everything.
Imagine a 16-year-old little scrawny at the time, if you can believe that. That's enough to imagine. But scrawny 16-year-old white Jewish American kid in Brixton at a De La Soul concert.
I'm jealous. Had a big break. Fantastic. Big fan.
And it was back at that time that I was introduced to LL Cool J. Right when Bigger and Deffer came out, and I have to say, Arsenal could really benefit from being like 100 times deafer than we are right now. I mean, we are not deaf enough from the perspective that that LL Cool J meant it. I should probably clarify.
Am I the only one that listens to jazz on this panel?
Oh God, I hate jazz.
Okay, I just need to get that in there for you, Mikey.
I hate jazz. Mike knows I hate jazz. We listened to jazz together in New Orleans, and I just tried to drink my way out of it, but I couldn't. So one quick quiz for you then before we move to Daniel. I have 4 questions. Have you ever taken a muscle-bound man and put his face in the sand?
No.
Okay. Is sparring competition your hobby and your job?
No.
Okay. Do you eliminate punks and cut them up in chunks?
Yes. I'll say yes to that one. Yes.
And the last question is, and this will decide whether you're proper LL Cool J or whether you're legacy LL Cool J.
Proper.
Do you eat rappers like a cannibal, and do they call you insane?
No.
Okay. So 1 out of 4 in the I'm bad. So you are not. LL Cool James is not bad.
No, but I hope LL Cool James or LL Cool J even does not become a part of NCIS Super League or the Rapper Super League. I hope that he stays where he is.
Exactly. Yeah, he's found his thing. So
he is. He's got his niche.
Daniel Bailey, you go by the Blind Gooner on Twitter and on your YouTube channel.
Yes.
Again, maybe I'm dumb, but why is that? I'm thinking it might be because your former job was a Premier League referee. Is that what it is?
Oh, mate, I'll tell you what. I'll probably do a better job, to be honest.
I would have you in there in a second.
Yeah, honestly, I'll probably do a better job. It's not rocket science, but yeah. So yeah, the blind gooner is just basically. So when I started, I started off this YouTube thing just by doing interviews on AFTV, and I just used my normal name. But when I set up my own channel, I kind of was like, well, people know me as the blind guy. That's it. I get regularly. Oh, there's the blind guy off AFTV. So I was like, I want to have something that lets people know that I'm blind, but lets also people know that I'm a gooner. And obviously, and I thought, you know what, the blind gooner is kind of fitting, really, for that name to be my channel name, and it just stuck with there, and then people took to it. So
I mean, it sounds better than LL Cool Daniel. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, though you are cool, it just sounds better than that. So you're an inspiration to myself and tons of Gooners. I mean, for one thing, you've overcome being without your sight to take in the game you love, to go to the games, to talk about the games, share your thoughts on what is normally considered a pretty visual media, YouTube, and so tell us a little bit about your background, how you became a Gooner, and kind of how you've consumed football and Arsenal over the years, and how much or whether technology's really improved, affected, changed that at all. I mean, I'd love to hear the whole backstory.
Yeah. So I used to watch games at a very young age with my uncle, who's a massive Arsenal fan, and I just kind of Arsenal was like the club that I always watched because of my uncle. So I just naturally I saw the style of play and really liked it, and it's just sort of I've supported them ever since. So I'm only 31 years of age, so I was really came to me with the like the Arsene Wenger, we're back with the Invincibles and the teams before that, but yeah, that's really how I became an Arsenal fan. Actually, the first game that I went to wasn't actually until 2007. I think 2007 was the first game that I went to, and I remember it clearly as well, because it was a Wednesday afternoon, and a mate of mine actually managed to get tickets, and he said, listen, because he knew I was a massive Arsenal fan, he said, I've got you tickets. Listen, what we can do is we can drive up, and or rather he can drive up. Man, could you imagine me
God, I was going to ask you who drove, and then I was like, should I do that or not?
Yeah, could you imagine, like, and it's actually really funny, because the way it turned out, he actually drove us up there. First time that I'd been to the Emirates. First time, obviously, he's not an Arsenal fan, but he just came with me because he'd never been to a massive Premier League game. Getting lost in central London wasn't fun. We actually didn't get to the game. This is really crazy. We actually didn't get to the game because we got so lost in central London. Then we kind of got directions, found our way to the actual stadium. We didn't actually get into the game until 20 minutes before the end because we got so lost in London.
Oh, man.
It was horrendous. I missed both the Arsenal goals. The only goal I scored, because we were playing, the only goal I saw, well, take what you will, didn't see it, but there was the Steaua Bucharest goal. We were playing Steaua Bucharest at the time, and we won 2-1, I believe, if my memory serves me correct. And theirs was the only goal that I saw. So yeah, pretty eventful for my first time to the Emirates.
Up to December 2nd, 2007. Steaua Bucharest 2-1 in the Champions League. It was the final game of the Champions League, and we finished second to Sevilla that season. But so you missed goals from Abu Dhabi.
Yeah,
and Nicholas Bentner.
Yeah, I missed those goals. I literally missed those goals, and then from then on, I've sort of been going periodically. Obviously, as you know, like season ticket waiting list.
Yeah,
is absolutely massive, and even for disabled supporters, it's absolutely. I think for supporters who aren't disabled, I think it's like 10 to 20 years, but for disabled supporters, it's about 10 to 15 years. So I didn't get my season ticket until about 2 or 3 seasons ago. I put myself on the waiting list pretty much as soon as I started going regularly, and then it was just a waiting game. So yeah, listen, I know it's I feel privileged that I get to go, week in, week out, home and away. Like, I know there's a lot of people that don't, and especially you guys in the States who don't get to go as much as I'm sure you guys would like to. So yeah, I feel privileged to be able to go week in, week out.
Well, that's fantastic, and you see these waiting lists, and you just never expect your name to finally come up. But it's great that it has. By the same token, those waiting lists, as we'll talk about later, I don't think the Cronkies are too worried about empty stadiums anytime soon as a result of that. But before we do that, we got a lot to talk about this week. We had a pod on the Super League fiasco with James Benge. After we withdrew, we had we covered the fans forum with a show. We've had open mic shows. But today let's kind of talk about.
Mike, can I just tell you, because you asked me about how I follow the games, and I kind of missed that part out.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I know you asked me as well in a message earlier, and so a lot of people have asked me how I sort of follow the game. So actually, I use audio commentary, which is a lot of people. The best way I can describe it is if you've ever listened to radio commentary, it's very kind of similar. Now, Arsenal are very lucky in the sense that they have their own commentary panel at the games on match days, and throughout this pandemic, they've kept up a virtual audio commentary service, which is really good. But yeah, that's how I follow the games for anybody that's interested, and anybody wonders, how do you get such a fine grasp of the game when you can't see it? That's exactly how it is, through audio commentary.
Yeah, and you really do. I mean, the your feedback on the games, your opinions on the games are indistinguishable from someone who had visually seen the game themselves, and and it isn't just, oh, did you see how close that was to being on or offside? It's getting a sense of the tone of the game, the momentum, these are things that you get out of that. And you clearly, as much as anyone else, and possibly more, have a true sense of that. So I apologize for forgetting that I asked you that as well, because it's certainly something that's interesting to know. So let's talk about Everton. First of all, let's focus on the game first, Mikey. Given everything that had gone on previous to the game earlier in the week, how plugged in were you for this game? I mean, a noon kickoff time on on a weekday, a bit unusual in a Premier League setting anyway. But were you into it? Were you motivated to watch it? I mean, what was your general feeling about the game, given everything that had happened in the week?
To be honest, the protest, the ESL did nothing to hinder how I view Arsenal. For me, the season just keeps on chugging along. So I at no point in time, and this is very unpopular to say, but somebody that I'm going to say looks at the ESL slightly different. So I wasn't as outraged as some fans. And, I've been discussing with a lot of people, a lot of locals, and I'm gaining a little bit of the perspective on it, because obviously, me being American, I have a different viewpoint on it. So I'm leaning towards and understanding what they're going through, being we'll call them legacy fans for the sake of the conversation, as Cronkies, as the Cronkies and other people said it. So for me, it didn't hit me as hard as the local fans. I have no issue whatsoever admitting to that. I kind of was baffled when some people were like, I might just stop supporting Arsenal. And I didn't understand it, to be completely honest, because I look at Arsenal as the team I've supported since, before I think it was 8 at the time, 8 or 9 years
He
old.
just started enjoying the game the team about 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
And he's already on the podcast.
That's amazing, right? And so, yeah, I didn't have effect, man. Everybody knows I'm very optimistic about things. So I went into the Everton game expecting maybe a 1-1 draw, just based on our kind of toothlessness ahead with Locke and Alba out, and I was just hoping for the best, man. I'm kind of hoping for something amazing to happen in the league. So as far as going into the game, I didn't feel weird, man. It was
let me stop you before we get into the game, because I actually want to compliment you significantly on what you've just been talking about, which is
being a 3-hour fan.
No,
yeah,
that and
3 crazy hours, man. Whew.
Yeah, you're the Gilligan's Island of Arsenal fans. It's a 3-hour fan. You mentioned that and I've been watching this happen. I've seen it happen in our own open mic chat. I've seen it happen in other podcasts. I've seen it happen on Twitter, and we've talked privately about it. And you're a lot of people, and I'm probably inclined to do this at times as well, will kind of see which way the wind is blowing and then come out strong in that way. It doesn't really have you be true to your own feelings about something. And, you don't do that. You made it pretty clear at the beginning that, your viewpoint on this was different. You didn't waver on that, but you were open to discussion with people who were willing to be open with discussion with you in kind of getting their feedback and understanding it better. You can't put yourself into the head of someone who's lived in N5 and supported the team for 50 years and had it come through their family and feels one way if you aren't sharing that experience with them. And so, it's impressive to me to see how you've kind of said, well, I'd like to learn more about why I should be upset about this. It may not make me upset about it, but it'll make me understand more. I mean, that's how you learn about stuff. And it's all you can ask of someone who doesn't have a shared experience with you is to want to share your experience. So yes. Before you started kind of moving into the ins and outs of the game itself, I wanted to compliment you on that, because if more people did that rather than just take one side or the other and then fight it to the death with everyone that doesn't agree with them, it'd be a better place. So
no, appreciate that. Yeah, no, that whole thing I feel like it's a bit silly, right? I'm quickly becoming a friend with a gentleman named Dean that has been on the open mic show. And look, he said he's been supporting Arsenal, or started really deep diving into football for the last 5 or 6 years. And he ended up supporting Arsenal. I don't care. I don't care if you just started supporting Arsenal. Thank you for supporting Arsenal, and welcome to the family. You're supporting something, and you want Arsenal to win. I want Arsenal to win. Awesome. So I've always kind of thought that whole tribalistic thing was a little confusing. We're all part of the same team. We all have different life experiences. We all I learned through. I had to move to a different country out of America to learn about football, learn about culture about football, and see how obsessed people that could become with the sport. And then
you make it seem like that's why you moved out of the country.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know. I specifically bought a plane
in America, and
I
just decided I had to go to Central America because I just was not in tune with what football was all about.
Because in Central America, you get all the channels for free because everything's ripped off over there.
That's why you moved.
I couldn't literally could not watch football in the States at that time in the 90s. So no, it's a learning curve, man, but it's a brilliant ride, and I'm up for learning, as you said. And just if I could plead with locals, just reminder, it's not all Americans. A lot of people feel very, very strongly about the Arsenal, and it goes without saying, we've spoken about the hours in which we wake up to watch these games and everything. And I know that it's not doing a 5-hour trip going away, but there are a lot of people that do a lot to reschedule their schedule just to be able to watch an Arsenal game live. So, I'm going
to take another detour then because I want to stay on topic. I mean, I don't want to shoehorn this Everton game into a conversation that's otherwise flowing in a different direction. We have 2 people who are local who either go to games or have had the team pass through their family. So I certainly want to make sure we go, for your opinion on that. And we're not asking you to validate us as Americans, but where,
Yes,
James, your experience with the globalization of the game. I mean, that's what I keep calling probably the biggest friction with the people that are being called legacy supporters, the home and away, the pass through your family, the decades, the Highbury, all that. Some section of those realize that the bigger the team gets, the better. Others feel as though it's an encroachment on something that was theirs. What have your experiences told you with regards to the globalization of the game? Because there's no going back on that. It's here to stay. You either like it or you don't. And I guess what are your thoughts on that from your perspective? James.
Sorry, I didn't know which one. Yeah, I was like, direct it because for me, it's like you said, it's people that feel that you're encroaching on something that was theirs, or it's not as good as it used to be. Even if that's the case, if you didn't think that something like this was going to happen, right, even back in the 90s, you're delusional for me, I'm afraid. You're absolutely delusional because it was the way it was going. I mentioned it on your open mic in your comments the other day. If it wasn't for fans in the US and fans in the Middle East, we'd be in a worse position now than we are already, because it was the Middle East TV deal and the US TV deal that saved them the last time, because the domestic rights where we live went down. They charged less to keep the Premier League on the TV. And it was the deals, like I said, the deals internationally that helped bump the clubs up last time. So it's a global game. Obviously, in terms of the Super League, dead set against it, especially, if it eliminated the Premier League. And like I said, the no relegation and everything else, I'm not a fan of that. I believe in sporting integrity and merit. And, for me, it's a big issue. Obviously, it's been stopped now. Probably will come back again. Maybe not in 2 years, maybe not 3. But in the next 4 or 5, I think there'll be a new proposal and a new way to get this in. And I think
it'll be in 6 months.
It could be. Could well be. But they'll find a way. I mean, for me, I think the big thing that stopped it was obviously the German clubs going no, and also PSG going no. But we all know why PSG said no. It's because they've got a World Cup they want to get out of the way first. The minute that World Cup's finished, PSG will sign straight. Yeah, we'll be involved. They just want to have that Qatar World Cup pass by as smooth as possible. And I mean, all goes. A lot of things was said about greed and everything else. They're all greedy. Every single UEFA's greedy, FIFA's greedy, and it just kept piling, and it was all going to blow up, and it has. And in terms of what it did for the game on Friday, I separated the two. So I was like, look, at the end of the day, we're still playing for whatever we're playing for, top 7, I guess, maybe if we're lucky.
At this point, top 9. I mean, we're going to be 11th by the end of the day, more than likely.
Exactly. And I was like, look, let's separate the two. The players didn't do this. The manager didn't do this. It was the owners. Let's not, bombard these or whatever, and try and enjoy the game as best we can. And it was dreadful. That's the game was awful. Yeah,
Daniel, do you? Well, first, your feelings on the whole. The angle that we've been talking about with regards to the Super League, the kind of traditional versus newfound fans, and again, not all Americans or all Southeast Asians or Africans or Middle Easterns are newfound fans either. I mean, there are connections to where some people have a very, very long-standing relationship, but in general, and do you think that KSE, while falling on the sword with words, and saying that they apologize for this and apologize for that, do you think they really know what they did wrong?
No, I honestly don't. I think they're in. For whatever reason, I think they're oblivious to the fact that they caused a massive if you'll excuse my language, they caused a massive shitstorm. You know, because they really did. They really did, and I don't think, and you can see, you know, by the way that, you know, the transcript of that fans forum come out, you could see that that Josh wasn't even interested. And for, you know, for me, what I think it might have done is, and I hope it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't. But I hope that the rest of the fan base don't look at the US Arsenal fan base and think that the US Arsenal fan base is completely on the side of the Cronkies. I hope that doesn't happen.
If you pay attention, then you can't possibly view that. If you want that, I mean, like, and I don't mean you, I mean, you know, if a person is paying attention to what's out there in the comments, and they would know that, you know, the vast majority of people feel very strongly about it, or, you know, are open-minded about it. There's very few people, and there are some, but there are also some in England who have said, you know, this doesn't bother me at all. This is the next logical progression of the game. But yeah, I mean, we will get to the, you know, the whole American thing. I have some comments I want to say later on about that, but it's a thing. It's a notion you could get if you really don't want to be told otherwise.
I think, look, I know you were saying about it being the you know, some fans may think it's the progression of the game, and I think when you look at it, when you look at the Super League proposal and look at what they were trying to do, I think it just took a lot of, you know, like the sporting merit away. I know James, you alluded to it as well, and you know, that's part of the reason that makes football so interesting, is that you don't know what's going to happen, you know. And the thing for me is, I on my channel, I've banged on about a lot about being fed up of being in the Europa League, being fed up of playing the teams of that just really, you know, you should be beating. You know, I've said for the last 2 months that I'd like to be playing, you know, Barcelona, Real Madrid. I'd like to hear the Champions League music back at the Emirates. But when this Super League proposal came out and all these stories were dropping, I was just like, hang on, this doesn't feel right. It goes against the moral compass of football. It goes against everything that's good about football. And you know, James, you're right as well when you said about, you know, UEFA and all that. They're all in it for the money. They're all in it for the money. You know, like with Sky, Gary Neville coming out and saying, you know, saying what he did. Listen, it was a passionate speech, but let's not forget that he works for a company that tried to charge fans £15 for pay-per-view matches. So where was your same? But where was your same? You know, intensity when the fans were getting charged for the pay-per-view matches. I know they scrapped it eventually, but the fact that they still brought it in for a short time just says that they're about the money too. So I think you've got to, I think, you know, every company is all about money. You know, whether, you know, the companies can dress it up and, oh, it's wrong for the fans, it's wrong for you know, listen, the fans don't deserve this. But let's just be honest here, that it is the money is the main factor for these companies.
Yeah, and it's the hypocrisy level of the vast majority of people just acting, you know, wounded by this, who aren't just the typical common fans, and even hypocrisy amongst the fan base who want us to act like Manchester City. And then when a proposal comes up that evens up the tables with Manchester City, despite its faults, you know, we're about the you know, the love of the game. We'd be happy with Arsenal being a smaller team, the smaller global outreach with less revenue, which obviously means lower finishes in the table more often than not, with the possibility of ever, you know, and as soon as that happened, there'd be complaining. So there's just, I mean, we just have to accept that there's a tremendous amount of hypocrisy. But the examples that you've mentioned are the most glaring, where, you know, you have people coming out on a stand who have no platform based on who they are, who they work for, what they've done to say anything about it. So,
and you know, when it first came out, Mike, as well, when this Super League and the teams who were in it was announced, I sort of got it. Why Man United and Arsenal were in it, I got it. I maybe didn't understand why Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool were in it, because those guys have been successful. You know, especially Liverpool. That Arsenal fans will tell you, and a majority of Arsenal fans will tell you that, you know, when you know they talk about the self-sustaining model, they always inspire to be like Liverpool. And so I kind of didn't get why those teams joined it, but I could sort of maybe, even if I didn't support it, I could understand why teams like Man United and Arsenal were signing up to it, and Tottenham. But Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool, it just made no sense because they were successful anyway.
I think Liverpool probably would have been more, you know, we don't want to get left behind. We're successful, but we need the revenue that we're getting. We don't want to be in a Premier League that's getting less revenue. The other two, City and Chelsea, are essentially owner financed completely through different methods, and they didn't need it, which is probably why they were literally the first two to come out, James. I mean, those two teams probably were just strong-armed into not wanting to be, you know, a Celtic in a league where they really had no, you know, or Celtic when Rangers were demoted, or even Celtic and Rangers together, the two of them just fighting for the championship every year with no revenue and being the only one with any quality players that weren't getting poached by other teams. I mean, that kind of seems how the peeling off of it began, is those teams probably didn't want to be part of it in the first place.
No, I mean, the statement that we released and the wording and the fact it had no one's name attached on the end, it just said the Arsenal board. That to me just reeks of their cowardice, which they've had for a very long time. But yeah, like you said, I think the other teams joined in because our wording was that it sort of screamed that we had fear of missing out. And that's the way it's been presented by V9 and everything else since. And the question, and that, you know, I'm not invited to these fan forums, and I probably won't be. But I would say you're claiming that you're fearing of missing out, yet the owner of this club was a VP. So that means he's steering the ship. He's helping steer the ship, not that he wants to be on the ship. And he was the first one to be announced as a VP. After Perez was announced as the global president of it, it was Stan and the Juventus guy who's now left.
Yeah, they have vehemently fought that being truth. I mean, and you know, Florentino Perez isn't the most trustworthy person I've ever met.
No, if there's a guy that needs to put his phone down and the drink down, it's that guy.
Yeah.
You know,
so who knows what to believe?
He's got a few opinions that are out of this world, you know.
They certainly did not want to be cast with the aspersions that they were part of the founding members of this.
Yeah.
They definitely wanted to be the little victim who was chasing the lorry behind the on the street, trying to jump on it before it drove away. But yeah, I mean, it's a messed up situation. Mike, anything to add as far as kind of whether you think Kroenke's learned anything from this? Do you think that they're apologizing because they got caught doing something, but they don't really know the extent of what they did and why it was wrong?
I think they're very clueless to what they did to anger fans. And I'm going to put it in this context. I initially didn't understand why local fans were this upset. And I'm deep into this Arsenal shit. So
this Arsenal shit.
so Stan,
this goddamn Arsenal fuckery.
Arsenal shit. So Stan being not so deep or not deep at all in this Arsenal shit. It's very difficult to look at him based on his history, based on what we know, what he's done with the Rams and other teams. Is he has a very unique way of running things, and that unique way is I'm going to hire people to do a job, and then I'm going to look away. He's not in it, right? He's not. in any operation on a day-to-day basis. So I don't think he knows and he truly understands what happened in this past week, and nor do I. And this sounds horrible, but I this is my honest opinion. I don't know how much the protest affected him, and I understand the outrage. I understand the protests, and it's a great message for me. I'll say this: it was a great message for the world to know the Arsenal fan base and how they can unite and what they do believe in. So I know a lot has been said about the club their reputation has been tarnished, and maybe amongst the other owners of the league that is something, right? But somehow, some way, the guilt and the blame started trickling down to not only players and managers but to fans. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, how are fans a part of this, right? So I think it did a great deal for the image of Arsenal fans. If anybody was doubting, the local fan base and a lot of the worldwide fan base that were like, oh, this is what they want, it's, clearly it's not what they want. So I think it did wonders for the perspective of other fans to not doubt what Arsenal fans are about, and they do respect tradition. And so I thought the protest was fantastic because of that. So. But yeah, I stand by that. Unfortunately, I don't know how much it's going to affect Stan. Josh, you and I both know, you and I both are true believers that Josh is the one that operates Arsenal, not Stan at all. So when Stan doesn't come out and make a public speak or sends Josh out, it's not surprising to me. And for those of you that don't know. He doesn't do it for his American teams either. Like I could literally remember one time of him being in a presentation for the Rams' new stadium, I think, and it was the most awkward shit that you could have thought about. He is not.
It's clearly his passion project amongst all of his teams, but he still won't get out in front of it. He does not like the spotlight, and you'll never see him do the things that the fan base wants him to do. I've been saying for 2 years, just forget about Stan. I mean, yes, he makes some of the decisions at the highest level, but forget about him. It's Josh you need to be focused on. And I said that at the time in a encouraged way, like Josh is going to be different. And he's done a tremendous amount in the last 2 years to dissipate that feeling amongst,
What year was it that they got to the Super Bowl recently?
It was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2019.
The game before that, the playoff? I'm so out.
Yeah, the one where the entire city of New Orleans was robbed from getting to the Super Bowl
because they lost it, didn't they?
There was the video. Yeah, there was the video of Stan Kroenke being presented with the ball after, didn't they? The coach, and it was so awkward. Like
and
I was
that's a uniquely American thing as well. They bring out the coach, they bring out the star player, and then the owner.
Yeah.
And they just shouldn't do that. The owner, like I don't know. In some cases, it's a beloved owner, but generally,
Sure, but it's like you're saying about being hands-off-ish. That's it's totally on Josh. Like
he's not a public person.
I mean, he's not even financing it. Really, we're financing it. I know they paid for the party deal or whatever. That's the only sort of money they've put in. But in terms of who's fronting it. It is Josh, 100%.
And it has been for a while, and his actions are going to speak louder than his words. He says in the fan forum, I was after summer of 2019, into that season, I was planning on having a much bigger presence in London. I was planning on getting more communicative with the fan base, but then COVID hit. And that just made me mad because I'm pretty sure the Super League wasn't planned in person sitting across a table. And that's a pretty big deal. Yeah. And B, you had the opportunity to connect. I mean, I've been asking the team to connect on a different level than they had been. I've spoken to Vinay directly face to face about it. I've spoken, and it was always just, let's just focus on what's going on the pitch. It's just not the right time. It's not the right time. And then you'd see interviews given to traditional print media, which more often than not spins their words into a way that provides negative press. So it's a bizarre strategy, and to blame COVID was not really that appropriate, because you can communicate, you can make progressive changes in how you run the club and include its supporter base without physically being there. It would be nice to be there more often, but Mike Ashley's at the game every week, or at least he used to be, and that hasn't helped. So I mean, it's how you do it, not that you do it.
So this is for me an interesting point from Vivek Malik in the chat. So there's a reason we call him Silent Stan. Fans need to put pressure on Josh so much that he escalates it to Stan. So if Josh does indeed follow through with his promise of being more communicative, showing his face a lot more via Zoom for the time being, right? I'm hoping his internet is up and running, that COVID can't stop him. But if he does start presenting himself way more to fans, that's the spotlight and the promise that he put on himself with the last fan forum. He's the person you want to talk to, and he's the one you want to air your grievances with. So don't, it's a waste of time essentially say, hey, when is your dad going to show up? It's
irrelevant at this point. It doesn't mean
it's irrelevant. So tell him what you're aggravated about, like many fans did in the fan forum. He's going to talk to his dad about it. Just don't expect a rebuttal. Just expect Josh to come back with a rebuttal of some sort at some period, and just know that he is the current owner, the current runner of Arsenal Football Club.
And he's missing a great opportunity, Daniel, because his comments have always been, and he said this when we met with him in Denver in July of 2019, and he said it again in this meeting, which is, I am my dad and my dad is me from a public standpoint. Everything I say is him saying it. Everything he says is me saying it. We're together. And I think, he obviously, no one wants to throw their father under the bus. No one wants to even kind of relate the potential fact that there could be a disconnect between what he thinks and what his father thinks as to the stewardship and custodianship of Arsenal. But he has had the opportunity to kind of make a clean start with Arsenal supporters that Stan Kroenke is well done with. Stan Kroenke will never be liked by this team, but the more that Josh could position himself as an interested owner to whom this is his project, not one of his projects, but this is his new passion. As new to it as he is, it is his passion. He could have really built a name for himself as being worth giving time to. Instead, he's aligned himself with his father, who is not worth giving any more time to, and that's a huge PR mistake, don't you think, Daniel?
Yeah, I think it's a massive mistake. The thing is, I just look at Josh and Stan, and I said it for some time. When Josh started coming out a bit more and saying things and sort of interacting a little bit more, I sort of said, listen, maybe Josh cares about Arsenal more than Stan does. But I just, if I'm being honest, guys, I think any kind of bridge that was built, if albeit reluctantly, with the fans and the Kroenkes, I think it's just been well and truly severed. I honestly don't think there's any way coming back from this. I don't think the fans will trust any of the Kroenkes now. And the thing is, right, Josh, you could just tell in his responses, and even with the forum, that they were just so generic. And I look at it a little bit different. I know you guys saying that, maybe forget about hearing from Stan, but I look at it slightly different in that if you own a business or a football club like Arsenal, and you don't necessarily need to come out week in, week out and make statements. Just one little statement from your own voice will go a long way to sort of saying, then nobody can level saying, well, Stan never talks about Arsenal. He never,
not a newspaper story, not a pre.
Well, look at what the Liverpool owner did. Okay, yes, you can say that this statement was generic, but at least he made one. You might not have agreed with it, you might not have, but he was there. You might not have thought it was, you might have thought it was a bit generic, but at least he made one. That's the thing. Stan doesn't even, does this guy even have a voice? I don't even know if he talks. I think I've seen, like you guys saying, doing one interview about the Rams, and that was it. But
yeah, we joked that he probably doesn't talk because like his voice is probably like, hey, I love Arsenal so much, it's great.
But I just think when and the thing is with Josh as well, saying if you're hearing from me, you're hearing from my father. I just think that's a bit of a cop out, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's a total
as much as because as much as you might be in line with your father, you're not your father. You're not. When people say who owns Arsenal, they don't say the Cronkies, do they? They say Stan's, either. And this is the thing. I think either give sole ownership of Arsenal to Josh, or all of you get out. Do you know what I mean? You can't have this. Well, if you're hearing from me, you're hearing from my father, and we speak as one. I just find that a little bit mucky. I find it a little bit of a cop out. I feel like that Stan, when he because I bet you that he was front and center of this whole Super League business when it come to getting Arsenal in, but yet he sent his son to deal with the fallout. I just find that a kind of a little bit. Well, here you go, son. You take the flak for me because I'm not man enough to do it.
100%. Daniel Robert, you literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say Andy never comes on the podcast anymore because I speak for him and he speaks for me, and apparently, he's silent Andy now. But so yes, Daniel with the comment about me speaking for Owen now. Hilarious. I do want to, speaking of comments in the chat, I want to talk. I mean, our chat is 40 strong tonight. Fantastic crew. Want to shout out to Zamir who joined us on the open pod night. Says Mike's getting ready to put on his kettle. It is 3 p.m. Eastern time, which is soup time. I will make my soup live on the show. I've just started the kettle, so you're going to see something today that you didn't even have to pay extra for. Normally this would be on our Patreon, www.patreon.com/TGP, but you're going to get it for free today. But great chats in our pods recently. Thanks to 95 Winston, who's been here, coming in and out for a long time. Jonas from Belgium, have not seen you for a long time. Good evening to you. And Sai Anvesh is very pleased that Spurs lost. I think that makes 46 of us. Matthew Hudson's in the chat. Daniel Robert. Some guy, Mike Hers, is in the chat with death taxes and Spurs doing Spursy things. Arjit Jeer. I mean, look, James, we don't make the comments. We just put them up. Who's the new guy? Pudgy Jesus. How do you know that the real Jesus wasn't pudgy as well? I don't mean as well. I mean, wasn't pudgy. Sorry, you're not. Look, for me, calling someone pudgy would be a little ridiculous.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Welcome to social media.
Yeah, exactly. I had two choices. It was Magic Mike or Elephant Mike, and then Kev started calling me Magic Mike, so I took it. But thought he hadn't seen Neil on Twitter lately. Who else we got? Yo-Yo, who makes some fantastic comments in our chat. I have to call you out for always having something really strong to say. Bulgarian Gooners in the house. This is an early pod for him. It's only 9 p.m. there. It's used to staying up till 2 or 3 o'clock to watch us. Daniel Robert loves jazz. You are never coming on the open mic pod again. Sorry. Kevin Jean or Kevin Jean, I don't know how you pronounce it, wants a win on Thursday. Was watching Villarreal play Barcelona earlier and thinks Emery's new team isn't special. Not too many teams are special against Barcelona, even with Barcelona kind of at a low right now. Who else is in the chat? We got Matt D'Souza, Michael Turabian, Vivek Malik's in the chat, and just a great group. If you haven't spoken up in the chat yet, please do. We'd love to hear from you. Kay Lopez, Archie, Mass Gunners in the house, toffee flavored soup. So, in any case, shout out to the chat. Let's talk about the protests then, because we've talked about kind of everything leading up to it. See, this thing's going to get loud now. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but the water is boiling. So I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to mute myself. Thoughts on the protest, Daniel? Did you like it? Do you and views on whether there's going to be another? I mean, there's going to be another. I've already seen it publicized for Sunday, which is the Newcastle game. Is that a home or away game? I want to say
it's away.
Yeah, so it'll
Away.
be kind of like it'll be like United's yesterday, where they're playing, or where there's not a game going on inside, but it's still. Do you think we'll lose numbers in protesters? Do you think we'll gain numbers because it's a weekend rather than a weekday? What are your thoughts on the likelihood of the protest continuing?
I hope we don't lose numbers. I hope that, listen, there's no point in protesting once and then just giving up the ghost, and I hope that we continue to do it, that we continue to keep our message loud and clear. Listen, it was fantastic. Do you know, Stan Kroenke, I will give him this. He managed to do what nobody else has managed to do, and that's unite the Arsenal fan base. And that is, just from doing not very much and not being involved, he's managed to unite the Arsenal fan base. So yeah, listen, it was fantastic on Friday. It was peaceful, and I think there was only one or two like little minor incidents that occurred. But yeah, we should keep it up. Everybody should. Let's try and make it bigger and stronger next time with more people. I know it's not easy. We are still in the midst of a pandemic. But yeah, we need to keep that message loud and strong. There's no point in protesting and then just doing it once and then giving it up. You've got to do it continuously, and especially when stadiums open up again. I know they're talking about the last game of the season. Everybody in there just got to keep doing it, keep piling that pressure on. It might not do anything, it might not make a difference, but they surely will see that. And listen, while it's in the media, while it's all over, the government involved, you need to keep that pressure on. Keep that pressure on and keep fighting for what, as Arsenal fans, we believe in. That's all we can do. Can't do any more than that.
Absolutely not. And as my water comes to a boil, I'm going to throw it to you, James. Thoughts on the protest? I mean, I'm going to talk about one particular incident and my nuanced view of it in a little bit, but do you see it continuing at the same level of strength, getting stronger, or is it going to be the type of thing that peters out, which is absolutely what the Kroenkes will have wanted?
No. I think this is going to continue, if not continue, even more so grow. The problem I have is, like you said, there were two incidents there which I didn't like. I'm guessing you're going to probably touch on one, so I'll let you do it. And the other thing for me is, and this is where my biggest problem comes in, is if they start letting fans back, which they're looking at doing. I know they had some fans at the final today. When Arsenal have that game against Brighton, and I know it's going to be very, very hard for people. And I'm not saying to you, don't go. If people are listening thinking I'm encouraging them not to go, do what you want. It's been we've had a year away from everything. I know you want to, but don't be doing your little selfies. Oh, I'm back home. I've missed it so much. None of that crap. No, don't go in the shop and buy a load of stuff, because the biggest way is to hurt that man's pocket. And also, I'm not trying to be the guy that starts this all off, because I don't want to claim credit and everything. That's not what I'm all about. But you either leave before a certain time at the end, or you come in, because the empty seats, that emptiness, especially when fans are allowed back, is the message, because that will be on the screen and that'll be what people see. I mean, I see a lot of comments, people saying about, oh, look what happened with Arsene Wenger when he eventually... The thing that got Arsene Wenger out the most was the seats were empty. People were filing out before the end, or people just weren't turning up. And that's what swayed it, other than, results and everything weren't going great at the time and everything else. That's what swayed it. And that's the best, you've got to do as a collective, either not coming in until a certain time or leaving before a certain time, and have it empty. You know, have no noise, because that's the thing. The backdrop and the visual of the fans are what Sky and all that get the big money for.
Yeah, and they're not going to be piping in fake crowd noise when there's 10,000 people expected there. Although maybe the team will. You never know.
And like you said, Yo-Yo earlier puts great comments. He's put a smashing one in there now about Blackpool.
I'm going to mention it. I was going to mention
that's it. And that took them forever to get rid of that Oyston. It took them ages, but he eventually went. And that's exactly it. That's the same example that you need to follow. That's a perfect comment.
Yeah. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, he's got pretty,
it means business. Yeah.
So all right. So let me get to the topic, which is obviously we got a picture of it. It's this. Now, I have a nuanced view on this, as I do on most things, and I'm putting up a picture of the American flag being burned by what look like 2 or 3 people who were probably born 4 years ago. They're clearly very young. I don't know anything about their background. I do know that they were the minority and not the bulk of people there, but they're burning the American flag. Now, let me explain my point of view. I know that the American flag means a lot of things to a lot of different people, depending on your politics, your experiences, where you come from. You know, any national flag would. I have no disrespect for anybody's opinion about the flag, and I hope no one would disrespect mine. I look at the flag as a symbol of our country, but not as this revered item that is to be never touch the floor. You know, that's just, you know, part of my religious upbringing actually is that, you know, items that are not sacred from that standpoint are not to be looked at or idolized. So in any case, I never served in the military. I have incredible, affection and appreciation for those that did, and maybe I would feel differently if I had. But you know, the simple act of burning a flag, no matter what flag, to me, is less about the actions and more about the meaning behind it. If you are someone who's oppressed, even in your own country, if you're an American who hasn't gotten a fair shake, haven't gotten the opportunities, has been discriminated against systemically or otherwise, I can understand where that person would come from and their frustration with the American society. They burned a flag to show their displeasure with it. That's one thing. If you are in a country that where you feel that you've been oppressed by Americans, and it's happened all over the world, if you feel that way, whether we would agree or not, I understand the concept of burning a flag. It's disrespectful, but I'm not going to get on you for that. But that wasn't what this is. I mean, no one was protesting American policy. No one was protesting imperialism or even capitalism in general, because you live, those people live in a country that has been imperialist, is a capitalist country in general, just like ours. And what it says is we're going to start looking at the nationality of the people that we don't like, the individual people that we don't like, and paint the entire country, and in conjunction with that, all the fans of our team who are a large part of our family and others, through an act of disrespect and hatred with the flag. And it's not our fault that a fucking idiot, greedy billionaire numpty happens to be American rather than English like Mike Ashley, English like Owen Oyston, or from another area of the world like Venky's chicken who destroyed Blackburn. Or the dozens of other English or other foreign ownership groups who have purchased football clubs and kind of destroyed them from within. So, to me, my hope is that this was indeed an isolated experience. My experience has been that there's a lot of virtual flag burning online, on social media. I haven't seen it so much on the pods, but I worry a bit about, at the same time everyone's embracing and talking about how true the Arsenal fans are in America, how we wake up at all these hours. And I almost hate that, because we just take that for granted. We have to wake up at these hours. That's the least of the passion that Americans bring to Arsenal, is waking up at 4:00 in the morning. There's so much more to it than that. But, I worry that there's going to be more of a divide now because of what this ESL thing has done and the fact that, 3 of the English owners are American, that you're going to have the vocal minority in a very xenophobic area, whereas the more calm, silent majority welcome in Arsenal supporters. So again, I realize it's an isolated experience, but it is not as isolated as just those 3 people who did that on that day. There is a sentiment that I see more and more of growing, and it worries me a little bit. Mike, your thoughts, and then we'll go to to our guests on that.
Well, so I'm born here in America. I've always identified as an Hispanic or Mexican American, as some will say, and I know that for those of you that aren't growing up in America, there's a feeling of not being treated equal. So even though maybe I live in a country that sometimes I don't feel like it gives me a fair shake, and I know that's personal, and I don't represent the value of a very Mexican American out there. It's still the country in which I was born. It's still a country that I absolutely love. For me, this not the symbol of the flag, but the symbolism of the burning of a flag. It speaks to a little like overgeneralization and a little bit of like radicalness, and it just hits a point in which I don't agree with. I had various discussions online. There's a few people that truly just feel very strongly that it's just a piece of material, and I fully sympathize with that. But
we've got friends arguing with friends right now. I mean, some of my best friends are arguing with each other. They don't know each other, but I'm friends with them, and it's killing me because they don't know each other like I know each of them, and they're arguing over this flag thing, and it's about something different really than the flag as it relates to our football club.
Yes, 100%. So yeah, it hit a nerve with me. I got a lot of love for the country because I've been able to have, as Mike eats/drinks his soup.
I'm drinking it, baby.
Drinking it. This country has given me a lot. Given my parents a lot, my family a lot, my offsprings a lot. So I absolutely love the country. At first, it really bothered me, but something that I pointed out, Mike has pointed out, and I've been talking to him over the individual. Like he said, he has mutual friends, being me and another guy, and I'm bouncing ideas off of him too. And so the flag means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And just like I said earlier in the podcast, and say, hey, local fans, please don't think that every Arsenal fan is a greedy person that agrees with ESL. We have a lot of passion, a lot of love for the club. I'm going to return the favor and say, look, I'm not going to let the actions of a few individuals that rub me the wrong way, or a few or a lot. What's the word here, Mike? Xenophobic?
Yeah.
Type of people that just cannot, for whatever reason, feel like they can't extend an olive branch and love somebody else because they're from another country, or never accept them. It doesn't represent the values of all the fans. Does not represent the value of English-born UK people. So no harm, no foul in my sense. I'm gonna say I got over it. It's just something that is slightly unfortunate, and I will. The one thing I'll say is, when fans during protests do not call out other fans that are doing this, or for an example, hanging a dummy, I think you're only undermining the actual protest, because the media and other fans are going to grab those images, and those now become the images of the protest. And so in essence, you're just going to devalue what fans want currently, which is to move ownership, and so it'd be better, soon we'll be owned by Spotify, of course. So it's no big deal.
I forgot to mention that our podcast is on Spotify. Yes, Spotify. Yeah.
But yeah,
it's just need the money.
A lot of money. It just devalues the message. There've been a lot of protests in 2020, and every time you see a small group of people with a very narrow way of looking at life do something extreme, it tarnishes the movement. So I guess what I could only ask for local fans that are out there protesting, I agree with what James said about, keep the force going. Maybe during Newcastle, it's going to be a little bit different, but maybe back home, it gets bigger and stronger. I would recommend maybe toning that type of behavior down, not because I'm in love with Stan Kroenke, but simply because it is devaluing the protest meaning in the eyes of not only fans, but like outside world that doesn't know what's going on. The last thing you want to do, guys, is be painted as hooligans. Don't go down that road. It's a nasty road. And before I pass this on to James or Daniel, I just want to say that I went to the San Jose Earthquakes home game for the first time in over a year. And I took my daughter, as I always do. I have season ticket there. As I joked around, I support my local. And
you do,
guys. Look, it was only at 20% on a very, very small stadium, 18,000 person stadium. I'm very sad in a way that local fans are living this friction with the ESL, because let me tell you, being back in the stadium, even with a handful of fans, every foul, every attack, every save, every goal, it's like we dialed up the letter, the volume. It was like a final, and just it was a celebration of being back to some type of normalcy, and we had a blast. And I'm slightly sad that Arsenal fans and other top 5 clubs in Spurs will not be able to enjoy that when that happens. But to James' point, the protests should continue if that be the voice of the fans, because going there after everything that happened the last week and saying, okay, but let me buy a scarf real quick, it's again just another slippery slope of devaluing the protest. So those are my thoughts right there, Mikey.
Thanks, Mike. And the chat's been discussing this. Winston says they are kids. We know that they're kids. We know that there were 3 of them out of maybe 3,000 people. My issue isn't what they did. It's that it's in other areas more and more, frequently on social media and otherwise, we're seeing this sentiment happen. It's my concern about a rising tide of sentiment, not the action that happened the other day by those 3 people. Michael Tarabian says it was upsetting. This put a bit of a wedge between international and local fans, and that speaks to what Mike was talking about. It changes the focus from everyone's united against Stan Kroenke to the fans they all want Stan Kroenke out, but some of them don't want American fandom anymore. They want to take their game back. Those things don't help Arsenal. Those things don't help Arsenal in any particular way. So that's where my concern is. It isn't outrage over what happened. It's concern about what could be happening over the course of time.
To play devil's advocate slightly, right? The flag burning for me is wrong, but it's like Winston said and a few of the others have said in the comments. Sometimes, in the nicest possible way, the twats slip in. They slip in. And, like when you put the picture up, and you don't have to put it up again, but they look about 14, 15 at best. And they probably haven't been out for a long time as a group of friends together, saw this and were just like, got all caught up in it and was like, what can we do? Got G'd up. What can we do? What can we do? And they're like, oh, look, let's burn an American flag. That would probably, and they don't know, because they've never been educated. They don't know the symbolism of what that it means and everything else. And like you said, in the comments have said, it completely diverts the focus of what the primary goal is. And then it brings in this xenophobia and potential race issue, which just destroys everything. And like you said as well, Mike, the hanging of the effigy, that also I thought was wrong, because regardless of how much distaste or dislike you have, I don't want the guy to die. Yeah. And even when I was young.
No, we want him to be even richer by selling the club.
Exactly. And when I was young, back in '98, after the World Cup, when they put David Beckham effigies through the street, people were walking them through the street. I was
freaking out at the Argentinian guy.
Yeah, I was like 6 or 7, and I was like, "This is." Even at 6 or 7, I was like, "This doesn't look right. This is wrong. This is wrong."
You weren't a fan of murder when you were 6 and 7 years old?
No. I'm not a
until you
legacy.
started playing Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, I'm not a legacy murder fan. I'm a new.
Legacy LL Cool J. Legacy Arsenal.
Yeah, the LL in LL Cool J stands for, it's not ladies love, it's legacy.
But no, it was absolutely ridiculous. And do you know what? I think those kids probably got a talking to. I haven't seen anything. You know, I don't think they've been identified or anything else. But I believe people would have had a word with those kids.
Well, we hope so. And then
I think they know as well. I think if they just looked on Twitter, they'd realise that, we've done something pretty stupid here.
Let's hope. And again, not at the risk of being repetitive, it isn't an isolated incident that I'm worried about. It's becoming a far less isolated incident.
No, that's it.
I am worried about.
Yeah. No, you in certain sections you can see it spreading. And,
Daniel, last word on the protest. Any feelings with regards to the kind of the whole, xenophobic element of it? And I want to make sure that we get your feelings about that and anything else you want to say about the protest. And then we're going to cap off with maybe 5 minutes of talking about the Everton game because it was just such shit.
No, I think with the flag incident, I'm sort of, I take a little bit different approach. Like, I know, James, you were playing devil's advocate there, but I sort of take the approach that even at that age, you're old enough to know better. Do you know what I mean? I just it's wrong on every single level. Because what it's essentially saying is that just because Stan Kroenke's American, all Americans, and this is just my opinion, all Americans are the same as him, which is not the case. And what we don't want to do is cause a divide between the rest of the fan base and the American Arsenal fan base, because you guys as well are some of the most passionate supporters as well as whether you're here going to a game. But I just completely, it kind of lets Arsenal fan base down. And I know it's a minority, and I know people say it's a minority, but someone said to me once that unfortunately, when the minority does something like that, it's the minority that sticks out, because it's usually them that does something extreme, and then the good positive stuff all gets forgotten about because you're just focusing on that minority that's done this horrendous thing. So I actually don't agree with it at all.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does. And again, it's not a crusade for me. I don't want to turn it into something that it's not, but I am just kind of keeping an eye on things.
I guess it's because, when I think it's probably because when I've had personal experience of discrimination as well, so I guess I take a more personal view on this as well. But I just think nobody should be discriminating against any kind of country just because the owner is that nationality of the country, because you can't listen, every nation has people that you dislike in it, so you can't punish the whole nation just because you don't like somebody who's that nationality.
Interestingly enough, I have one element of that I think is probably more so than just like casting aspersions on America because Josh Kroenke and Stan Kroenke are American. I do understand that there's also a concern about the American style of sport, because it isn't just that Josh was born in America, that Stan was born in America, that FSG is an American company. It's that they were part of an effort, 3 out of how many 12 teams, but they were part of an effort to Americanize sport where there is very little sporting merit. There is very little punishment for not being good. And that is the cardinal sin, not just in England, but in Europe. There is promotion and relegation. There is a difference between finishing first, between finishing second, and between finishing 17th. And
do you know what I think's happened? I think what they've tried to do is cross. So like you guys, obviously with the American sports, you guys are really passionate about your American sports, and the same us, about football over here. And you guys are, obviously you kind of have your toe in both types of sport. And the problem is what they've done is they've tried to mix the two, and you can't mix the two because they're completely different. You guys have different rules over there with your sports, and same
you have teams that are near the bottom of the league who are actively trying to not show it, but still fine with losing, in fact, benefit from losing. Whereas, you would never see that.
Yeah.
If finishing as the worst 3 teams of the NBA got you demoted to the lower level called the G League, and the other teams came up, you would not be losing so that you can get a better draft pick. You would not be worried. You wouldn't be, not worried at all about your television revenues because everybody splits them evenly amongst a closed group of brothers in arms who are the owners, who basically are each other's best friends, not their biggest rivals. So I get that, because it's
Can I ask you a hypothetical question? As you guys are Americans, how would it go down in America if somebody like an English owner or something brought an American team and tried to turn it into the way of soccer, like the football? So how would you? Because I made this comparison on a show the other day, and I said I don't think you guys probably wouldn't stand for it as well. Do you know what I mean? You guys would probably be in uproar.
Well, I would love it, just because I mean what I love about English football and world football and Arsenal specifically is that it is not uniquely American. It isn't the same thing that we're used to in all these other sports. I don't know that buying one team would allow you to change the way the sport runs. I mean, there's just a different way of the game evolving over there. So it would have to be a much larger scale thing. But I mean, I would support, it just, I don't know that it's the same though, because you can't really roll back American sport into being a neighborhood game, a game that's passed through generations in the exact same way that it is over in England. I mean, the romance can't be built in. It can't be acquired. And there's too much money at stake already to potentially jeopardize one of your 28 or your 32 fellow franchise owners to having their club devalued by hundreds of millions of dollars because they've sunk into a second league because 2 of their best players got injured that year. Basketball, for instance, is a game that's decided by 2 or 3 people on a team, not 11, not even 5 in most cases. So I don't know that could happen, but I'd be for it. Most diehard American fans probably wouldn't, though.
Yeah, I think there's American fans like you and I, Mike, we watch a lot of sports, but football is our priority. And there's things about the game, the European game, that we absolutely love. So I think us as American fans, we would be okay with that. But there's a group of American fans that basketball is what they care about. Hockey is what they care about.
Can you imagine Philadelphia Eagles fans getting relegated?
That's what I'm saying,
Eagles
right?
Fans, yeah.
That fan base, if an Englishman, came through and seized power or had a really big voice and said, "Hey, guys, I think relegation would make this more entertaining," I could see a lot of American fans that are traditionally only view American sports absolutely lose their shit. I mean, look, I live in the Bay Area. Go ahead, Daniel.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's what it comes down to. I think what's happened, they've tried to mix the two traditions and put them together, and you can't do that because everybody, we have our own traditions. You guys have your own traditions, and no one is better than the other. It's just that they're completely different traditions, and I think that's where there's slightly something wrong, because there are a section of fans over here that think our tradition is better, and there's a section of fans over there that think your tradition is better. But
right.
I always say that no one is better than the other. They're just two different traditions, and you can't compare the two.
Your question is the exact question that Josh Kroenke needs to be asked for him to fully understand what it is that he's tried to do or gone along with, or why, there's this kind of resistance. I mean, that's the kind of thing he needs to think of, because, up until recently, his hockey team, his basketball team were both doormats. Now Colorado Avalanche and the Denver Nuggets are at or near the top of their leagues. And, again, no one wins anything for regular season. It's all playoffs, which is another part of the Super League that was really going to take effect, where that promotion playoffs to the Premier League, fine. Playoffs that render the regular season almost useless and allow a fourth place team to win the entire thing, and the only thing that matters, doesn't make sense. And that's so, I mean, for him to potentially have some of his teams relegated in America was the kind of thing that he, ought to probably familiarize himself and understand about.
The main thing is, like you said earlier, in that you've got, like we keep saying, legacy, tradition, or whatever way you want to go about it. You've got those people that are like, you coming in here and you're trying to make my, it was better when I liked it until you lot all come along and ruined it type thing. And it's that defense mechanism of you're ruining what I like. You're tarnishing. And I don't know if he needs to have someone educate him more on, because, the comment he made, you also like your cold Wednesdays in Stoke or whatever it was. That is literally someone in an earpiece mentioned.
How could Tim, that had to be Tim Lewis. The same person also said in an earpiece, you better stop giving one word answers with an attitude, or you're going to. I don't know if you're familiar with it. There's a guy over here who has a channel called The Room Next Door. And he basically gets UK politicians and he pretends that he's talking to them through an earpiece and tells them, and he makes spoofs, and it's really funny. It's really good. But it was like that. And, you were half expecting him to have someone go, say that the problem with Arsenal is they try and walk it in. And he's like, we try and walk it in too much. That's something I'm going to change. I 100%
just get all the cliches, you ring the bell.
I was listening to the fans forum. I'm not going to say how, but I was listening to it while it was happening, and taking a transcript of it. And when when Akil was asking him questions and he gave one word answers, literally one word, not even one word with a short rest of the sentence. I was like, if he keeps that up,
he's going to piss everyone off.
This thing is going to explode. And he quickly changed gears. It kind of timed with when Akil stopped asking him questions and they moved on to other people.
Yeah.
But, that was getting toxic very, very quickly. And
I don't know if there's people there already that are doing that. And like someone put in the comments earlier, he did come over for a long period of time because he was like, I want to be more involved and I want to learn more. But I'm like, if you can't grasp that basic concept, then you've got no chance whatsoever.
I don't know the band Wizard, but I'm guessing you will.
They're the guys that did the song "I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day," and I think they did "Spirit in the Sky," or at least the singer did. But
well, that was Norman Greenbaum. Was Norman Greenbaum from?
I think so. I believe so. I believe he was in Wizard. Yeah. No, I thought I was more of a B-Tech ZZ Top, but I'll take Wizard.
I was thinking it's kind of like the guy from the Spin Doctors. I don't know if you ever saw the Spin Doctors, but
is that Two Princes, right?
Yeah. A more handsome version of that guy. That guy had like weird.
I'll take it.
A less pudgy version of that guy. So, yeah, I mean I kind of forgot where we were. I was going to make a comment about the Kroenke, the fan forum, but excellent points from everybody. And we're pushing an hour and a half. We just have to do this, and we have to do this for Daniel Robert because I've been in Birdland. Eoin Young, who we miss terribly, who's been busy moving house. Loves he can't pronounce the word burned, and so he just says Bird Leno, and so from now on he's become Bird Leno, and we have pictures. Daniel, I'm sorry, I wish you could see these because these pictures are hilarious, but pictures of Big Bird Leno. We've got weird looking Bird Leno. We've got Tweety Bird Leno. We have Donald Duck Bird Leno. We have Daffy Duck Bird Leno, and then I have no clue what this is. But that's for you, Daniel Robert. You got your bird quotient met today, but here he is. He says, "I'm so excited." I mean, I've been at games where he's lost us the game. Oh my god!
There's
that's Roy Wood. Yeah,
there you
that's
are.
him.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. So I've been at games where Bird Leno has cost us points. The Chelsea game, December 29th of 19, and then I've seen him play out of his mind, incredible. But his mistakes, I mean, there's something in sports called the yips. I don't know if that's an expression that's used over there, but golfers get the yips. Pitchers in baseballs get to the yips, where you do something over and over and over again, and then suddenly you just forget how to do it. Are you worried, Daniel, that Leno is susceptible to the yips, or do you think that he's just a better keeper than he's shown this season? Because some of the individual mistakes he's made this season have just been awfully costly.
I think there's a mixture of everything. So I think, listen, let's be honest. He's not the only player that's underperformed this season. Listen, you could probably level that at 90% of this team that have underperformed this season. But I also think that, because listen, players are on social media, right? Players see what Arsenal fans are writing, and I'm not making excuses for his mistakes, but I honestly think that there's a section of the fan base that are trying to compare him to Martinez because of what he done, and it's not his fault that in whichever opinion you stand on it, whether the right or the wrong goalkeeper was sold. And I think maybe that he's trying to please the fans that are saying, "Oh, we sold the wrong keeper," because he would have seen all that on social media. He would have seen all that. The players aren't impervious to stuff like that, and I think that might have partly to do with it, with his bad performances. But I just genuinely think as well that the whole team is just underperformed, and his mistakes are unfortunately ones that lead to a goal. And
it's the one where as it happens, it affects us rather than it kind of accumulates over time to affecting us. Like if you're turning the ball over and over again, Thomas Partey, not a great game, not a great series of games for the most part, giving the ball away, which ultimately leads to a poor performance from the team. But when it happens to a goalkeeper, I mean, the ball's in the net and should have been.
But the thing is, a lot of people will say, "Oh, that incident cost us the game," and then they'll look at the VAR incident and say that cost us the game. So those are two incidents out of 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's remember that for the other 90 minutes, let's say those incidents probably were about 2 minutes for both of those incidents to occur. Let's not forget, for about 88 minutes, we were poor. So, we still had 88 minutes where we could have, even if you had those incidents still happen in the game, for the rest of the game, we still didn't deserve to win. We didn't do enough to as the home team to get the 3 points.
I agree. Your assessment, James, on Leno, on any other part of the game. I mean, we could talk about VAR for the 94th consecutive show. I even have a visual that we can put up about it, and a specific nuance that I want to talk about. But the floor is yours for your Everton review. Rather than going through the game over 30 minutes, bit by bit, we're just gonna go around the horn as we've already started doing, and just get it all out?
No, I agree pretty much with what Dan's assessment is. A lot of Arsenal fans have come out saying there's this vendetta with the refs and the decisions and everything else. There was worse refs when we did the Invincibles, but we didn't make those moments happen, or those moments didn't have much merit because we were a good enough team to get it done without having to rely on silly things like this.
But there are worse refs than they are right now.
Oh yeah. Oh, the refs back in the event, Uriah Rennie and people like that, Durkin, and all those old school. They were terrible. They couldn't even keep up with the game.
I was kind of unplugged at that moment.
I used to get oxygen deprivation trying to watch them run to keep up with the game back then. They were terrible. They were awful back then. Even worse. But Leno for me.
I thought that bald guy that does all the World Cup final, I thought he just did every single game.
Oh, Howard Webb.
Which one?
Was it Webb? Howard Webb?
No. I'm talking about the European guy.
Oh,
Luigi
Kalinia.
I thought that guy just did every single game in world football.
Pretty much, yeah. There was a time where he was just always there. It's a bit like Jimmy White in snooker. He was just always there. It's like, is there anyone else that does this apart from you? No. To be fair, Leno, I've said it for quite a while this season. The guy, I don't feel that guy's the guy to take us going forward. Where Arsenal want to go, he is not a goalkeeper that's going to get you there. So I saw earlier in the week he said that he's got aspirations and he's looking for a new venture. Take it, go. We'll find someone else. I don't know if Matty Ryan's the answer, but if not, there's plenty of goalkeepers that are up for grabs that we can invest in and everything else. And I just feel the guy doesn't concentrate for 90 minutes. He dips in and out. I think he was better when he had a worse defence in front of him. When we were being bombarded back, that Watford away game, he was better then. He was better when the defence was worse.
Other than what happened on Friday, his strength is like stopping shots with no reaction time. It's when he has time to react, and that he and people will tell me that that watched him back in Germany before he came over that he was the same way then.
Yeah, and he made the most errors the year we bought him. He was the guy, but when he made the save from Richarlison in the first half, I thought to myself, "Oh, that's a good save." But then as I've watched it back again, it's the usual where, no, he's parrying it and it's going towards... I mean, if Calvert-Lewin was more switched on, we'd have been 1-0 down then.
Right.
And that's what he does. He does not... Do you know what I mean? He doesn't push completely away. He pushes it towards traffic. And the Liverpool game in the League Cup, where he saved the penalty shootout and everything else, he gave a Brett the Hitman Hart-inspired promo. I'm the best there is, the best there was. I'm the best there ever will be. And I thought, good, because I'm like, for a German goalkeeper, you're awfully shy and reserved. Normally, they're either a head case or they're completely confident in their abilities. Yeah. And Oliver Kahn, for example. And I don't know. When you watch him and David Luiz play, it's like David Luiz doesn't get along with him or doesn't trust him. There's just so many variables there with him that I'm like, I don't see it. I don't rate the guy very much, I'm afraid.
So, Mikey, speaking of goalkeeping carousels, there's some Donna rumors that he might be going to Juve on a free but a big money deal, which leaves a certain goalkeeper that's currently playing for Juve unemployed. Would you take Wojciech Szczesny back to Arsenal and dump Leno at the moment?
First and foremost, I'm an avid AC Milan supporter. So if Donnarumma ended up at Juve, I would die a little inside. So please don't do that, and just go take your money grab at PSG if that's what you're aiming for. Just don't go to Juve. That said, in Italy, it's very remarkable to me that teams go around big teams. It's like nothing over there. Like over here, you go from like United to like Arsenal. They're gonna remember that your whole career. And I was having there you go, right? But there's so many Italians that have gone through Juve, Inter, Milan, that really shitty team, Roma, and so on and so on. I had to get that in. Shout out to you, Kelly. It's so the coach over there in Serie A is really crazy. Anyways, Szczesny, yeah, he's been good. He's also been a starter for one of the better teams in European football for many years and the best team in Serie A for multiple years. And I know a lot of people are reserved with Serie A, not thinking that it's absolute quality, but believe me when I say that Serie A has been on the rise the last 2, 3, maybe even 5 years, where teams like Napoli, Inter, Milan are rebuilding, and their offense, Lazio and Atalanta specifically is a beautiful case of just wonderful football. So I wouldn't sleep on Szczesny, and yeah, we all know he's an Arsenal fan, and we need another GIF or another video of him taking the piss out of Spurs. So personally, I would welcome him back. I'm pro Szczesny.
Yeah, I have a feeling, and it's easy to say this because he plays for Juve, but I get a sense that he's outgrown some of his early immaturity. I mean, there's always the discussion about the smoking in the dressing room, which, is weird because Arsene Wenger used to smoke. I mean, like, he could probably have understood that a little bit better, but like,
how old was he
at the time?
Yeah, at the time. How old was
probably 20, 21.
Okay. I'm just going to use that to push my Guendo agenda. Guys, Guendo, still salvageable. Next year, it's going to happen. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, Wojciech Szczesny is exactly 1 year older than LL Cool James. So I think he's still got 5 or 6 years of top flight left in him. By the way, Mike, just for your admirers, what is the capital of the U.S. state of Georgia?
For my admirers?
Yes. Say it like
the capital of Georgia? I don't know.
You just said it. You said Atalanta.
Oh,
say it again.
Atalanta.
Oh, we love that. It's normally anything that starts with A, has a consonant in the middle of it, and ends with A is a Mike Hurst special. Arteta, Atalanta. Kevin saying Savannah. No, it's not Savannah. Yes. Daniel Roberts saying he's 31 now. I don't know. You're 30 until you're 31, so I'm not 100%.
That's how it works.
Actually, as of a week ago, he's 31 now. So he's 31 until he's 32. But
quick review on the game. We looked good in the first 20 minutes. Everything after that was depressing. And I think we could all agree, ignoring the refs and VAR, currently Mikey pointed something out that the cameras being at 30 frames per second. Mike, I don't know if you put that in the back.
Yeah, I think it's at 30, but I did a little thing where I don't know how well this is coming up, but if you're running at 30 frames per second, the distance that's covered from one frame to the next, and I know it's kind of the visual I'm showing is of a guy running, and it's from one frame to the very next frame. The point of this video is that you don't move very much at 30 frames per second, but you do at 5 frames per second. But when you look at how much he's moving, it's about 1.5 feet from the front of his body in one frame to the next frame. That is definitely enough to make a difference with those tiny little lines on VAR. And I don't see how it is possible when your foot is going through the ball or your head is going through the ball. There's got to be at least 5 or 6 frames where it's indistinguishable about whether your foot is touching the ball still or whether it's gone, or whether the ball's touching in the case of the Lacazette flick on to Saka the other game, whether the ball's still on your head or not. So there's discretion that can be used in which frame to use. And from one frame to the next, you can find them being offside. You could find them being an inch onside. And it's just, it's at least rife for incompetence. It is at most an easy way of just kind of pushing it however you want to push it. And sometimes I wonder whether that's the case. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your point, Mikey, but I wanted to show the video that you were getting at.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. No, same thing. I just look, the refs in England have shown that they're pretty damn stupid in multiple different occasions. So at the very least, a word, the the rule and change up the rule or interpret the rule a little different and give them a set of standards for the handball rule and the offside rule, or at the very least up your technology, man, because 30 frames per second. I made a comment with Mikey, the lack of camera angles. You got to do something to help your already inept refs to figure this out, because these offsides that are being given, and again, to point out what Daniel said, there was a lot more into this game than these decisions. But to allow the game to go on 12, 15 seconds, call a penalty, then run it back and say it was a penalty, but it was offside. It's very, very, it's non-consistent at all. And it's really killing the vibes for a lot of fans. I'll say that. Also, I will say this because I did have an interesting interaction with an Everton fan, and he said, "Come on, Mike, that wasn't a pen." It wasn't. Nor do I believe it was a pen for Fulham versus Arsenal last week. The referees need to somehow figure out that they need to interpret the contact that's being made, because shit, guys, if your toe touches a man's shin, he's not going to go down flailing like the Fulham guy did, like Ceballos did in this game. And my issue here is we all disagree that we all agree that diving is a shitty thing, and nobody, literally no lover of this sport. Nice, we're 10th, baby.
I'm celebrating because we're Villa drew. We're still 10th. There's still a chance that we finish 9th.
Yes,
come on, Gunners. Oh my God, this is.
Nobody wants to see diving. Mikey is losing it right now. Nobody wants to see diving in the game, but the referees are unfortunately only encouraging it. Are only encouraging diving, because we see what happened with Kane and Son. We see Fulham. We see the Ceballos. Guys, Ceballos, man, my first reaction was like, come on, dude, you're fucking embarrassing me right now. That was my first reaction. And the ref's reaction was giving a penalty. You're out of your freaking mind, dude. It just something. I've been begging for this retrospective banning. I've been begging for this even after the game. If you cannot deduct points, at the very least, allow the team you played against to say, hey, I want you to review this game, this specific play, and at least deal out a yellow card, a red card, whatever, however you want to go about it, but some type of punishment for this, because it is horrible to see that crappy behavior. And here's the thing. I can't even blame Ceballos, because if he doesn't do it, he's not going to get awarded the penalty. So it sucks, because we've seen way more clear, like actual penalties. And because the player went down in a natural motion based on the contact, but because he didn't throw his arms in the air, there's penalties that are not being called as penalties, and there's dives that are being called as penalties. So the standard is being set of whatever you do when you receive contact, tuck your feet, grab your face and scream, and we'll award you a penalty. So it's a shitty standard that is being introduced.
Did you believe it was going to get overturned as soon as you saw it? Because I did. I knew. I was.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Not for the offside though. I was just like, he's gonna call that a dive on Ceballos. When I watched it, I was like, oh, that's cheap, man. I was like you just said. I was like, Danny, man, come on, you're better than this.
Yeah.
But when it went to the offside, that's when I lost my head. That's when my head went. And then the extra sketch comes out. Yeah.
It took over. Like, I'm like, all right, Danny, you pulled one over, and I was like, okay, I forgive you. And then I see the offside. I'm like, back to being angry again, I guess.
But it seemed like they reviewed. It seemed like they reviewed the offside before they reviewed the penalty, which I guess maybe that makes sense, because they didn't have to worry about whether it was a penalty or not. But to take it back 15 seconds for me was absurd. But
it's not even in the same sort of passage of play, is it?
No.
It's not like anything that offside did was integral in that passage of play beforehand, and it's like
it's no different than if you're in an offside position, but then you get back onside, without touching the ball, and then it's another. But
for me, it's like how long are you going to drag it back and review? it's just silly. I mean,
Yeah, you could go further, couldn't you? Like you could,
Yeah.
if on their basis of logic.
You could go back 90 seconds to a potential foul. Not even a yellow card or a red card, but a potential foul that happened on the other end of the pitch, but then and would have led to a free kick, but because it wasn't spotted, then a minute and a half later the other team scores. I mean, we're gonna go to that at some point. It's absurd. Now in hockey here, in NHL hockey, they do have instant replay, and if there's a question about whether the ball crosses over the line for a goal or not, because we have replay, we don't have goal line technology, they could go another 5 minutes of playing, have another team score, and then go back to review that, because they're not going to review it live while the game's in action. But that's not about it's just silly though. At some point, you have to like when you wave on a free kick, when you wave off a free kick because of advantage, the ref keeps their arms out there pretty much until the point at which advantage no longer matters. If they turn the ball over now, that's that. It's advantage. Same thing should somehow occur with a potential offside, where after a particular period of time or a number of touches, it can't be considered relevant anymore. And I don't know what that is. But
it's crazy.
It is. It's crazy.
I think it feels like these referees these officials have got a set of rules to follow, but instead of following the set of rules, they're following their own interpretation rather than what the guidelines and the rules are.
We saw that this morning. There was a ball touched a Manchester United defender's arm in the penalty area today, and it went to VAR and was ruled not a penalty because his arm was kind of trying to get out of the way, but it was still 15 feet away from it. Whereas I've seen in games that exact situation, or when the arm's being used to defend himself, not to make himself bigger, I've seen that not called as a penalty. We've seen it not called as a penalty against Wolves or whoever that was when he basically dribbled the ball like an NBA player and still didn't get called for it. So, I don't know how you can. I mean, there's so much money at stake. That West Ham thing yesterday, I was talking to my West Ham friend yesterday, tweeting him about how well, how impressed I was with them, how well they were playing against Chelsea. And then that red card, and I was like, mate, that is absolutely disgusting. And he was livid. West Ham, Chelsea, deciding that game with a red card potentially. They were down 1-0 already. So the red card, I guess, didn't decide the game, but there's only £100 million at stake about whether you finish fourth or fifth. I mean, no big deal.
It's the way they said as well, oh yeah, but next season that's not going to be a red card. I'm like, well, if it's bullshit from next year, then bullshit's bullshit all the time. It don't change. I'm like, if it's wrong next year, it's got to be wrong now. There's no West Ham fans that are going, well, it doesn't matter because next year he won't be sent off.
That's a red card, but Mane against Tierney and Bruno Fernandes against whoever that was that he stepped on. I mean, those aren't even fouls.
The problem is that the refs themselves are all incompetent. We all know that because none of them got taken to the World Cup. So what they need to do is just completely separate the two, because there's some of them that are in that VIR room that are probably like, well, I'm doing his game this week. He's doing my game next week. I better not, mess him up because he'll make me look silly the week after. Is get completely different people who they know nothing about. They don't know who they don't even see them.
One centralized.
Exactly. Yeah. And get it done that way.
And they're watching all the games. I mean, there's not that many games on at the same time anymore. It's not like there's 10 games on at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
There's 3 or 4 games on at 3 p.m. and the other ones are on by themselves. So
but it's like you alluded to earlier as well. The camera angles, I'm like, you own this footage. Like, you are the Premier League. You can get whatever angle. And the ones they show you, you're like, well, how? If that's the one you're watching, how? I can't even see that. So how are you?
Well, and the diagonal lines are meant to counteract that, but they're not perfect. And then the vertical lines and the arm and the shadow and the
crappy Etch-a-Sketch. It's just a crappy Etch-a-Sketch.
I'm a proponent, Daniel. What do you think about? I'm a proponent of 6-inch grace period, because and I know rules are rules, but if you're offside by less than 6 inches, then then it's onside, because you cannot possibly be sure with the frame that's used for when the ball comes off the foot or the other. And do we? I know we're not trying to spruce up the game. We're trying to make it fair. But if would you have rather had the Ceballos one's not a great example because that's a sketchy penalty. But would you rather have a goal scored on a close play than a goal not scored on a close play? I mean,
I'm not entirely sure. Do you know? I've never really understood.
It depends
the
on whether it's
offside
against
rule.
us or for us, but in general,
the offside rule goes over my head. Do you know what I mean? It's everybody has their own interpretations of it. I don't even think the bloody officials know what the actual correct rule is. They just go with whatever they go with whatever, isn't it? But I think it's tricky. It's a tricky one.
Are you for or against burning the PGMOL flag?
Sorry.
Are you in favor or against burning the PGMOL flag, the referee association? I mean, they probably have a flag. Would you? That was. You don't have
I'd
to
just kick the lot. I'd just kick the lot of them out. To be honest, just get people in who aren't. Who you can just train up just to be, just on the rules of VAR. The problem is, James said it as well. I think they know that they're all friends together, aren't they? So my mate's going to be doing this game, and I think that's the problem. You just need to get people who aren't going to be refereeing any games just to make the decisions, to take it out of these officials' hands, because they're just swapping and changing. And it's all well, you can move shit around all you want. If it's shit, it's still going to be shit. Doesn't matter how you dress it up. Do you know what I mean? So they just need to get rid of.
Are you telling us? Are you here to say that you've actually tried to dress up shit before? Because
well, you can. You can polish a turd, but it's still a turd. So the same with the referees. Too? The same with the referees. Do you know what I mean? You just move around.
Weird
they're shit.
You got some weird things that you do in your spare time.
Hey, listen, I don't. But you can move. They're total crap. Yeah. So you just keep moving it around. You can. It's not going to improve just because you've moved them onto a different set of systems like controlling VAR. If they're still crap, they're going to be crap. It's just no. It's like with players. You can move them around here, there, and everywhere on the pitch. If they're still shit, they're not going to change that. Nothing's going to change that.
That's what people always been saying about our podcast. I mean, it's kind of our tagline. If we can move around our shit, but we're still shit. And
you've got your legacy fans for the podcast. They're always good. They're going to stay.
Yeah, our legacy fans are. Some of them came back today from a couple years of absence.
Mike got rid of his legacy host and brought in some new shit and hosted. Same thing going on over here,
My legacy host got rid of himself, but he'll be back at some point. But the last word on VAR is I have always been a proponent of trying to improve the game through technology, if possible. Goal line technology, amazing. Never gets anything wrong. It's a fixed thing. It's technologically possible. It's not subjective, so it's perfect. VAR is so flawed and so much worse than no VAR that I, for once in my life, would go backwards and just eliminate it. If you can't make it better, if you can't make it more consistent, and I would try that first, just eliminate it and go back. And that might cost us the equal number of goals, although based on recent feelings, I don't think it would. It'll cost us. It will help us, but at least it'll be, it won't be as maddening, and it won't affect the flow of the game as much. Because if you're gonna do that, it better work. If you're gonna take 4 minutes or 90 seconds to review a call, you better get it right. You better not get it wronger than you had it the first time because of of some strange perspective from somebody. So with that in mind, we're over 2 hours, but we just we've been having so much fun talking about all this stuff, even though it's some kind of frustrating negative stuff. It's always good to be able to talk it out. So we're gonna wind up here. Thank you to the chat, 50 plus strong at times. Daniel, tell us where we can find you, the podcast that you're doing, your channel, your Twitter, anything else that you want to share with the rest of the Gooner family.
My channel on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook is just the same. It's the Blind Gooner, and I got a busy week with shows this week actually.
You got a special guest coming on tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, so I've got a show tonight as well at 10 p.m. So it's going to be mad. And then I've got a show tonight at 10 p.m. Then I've got a show tomorrow with Akil. He was obviously on the call, so he's coming on at 5 p.m. tomorrow. I've also got Sophie from the Hybrid Squad coming on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Then on Friday, Lee Judges is coming on, and I think somewhere in that week, it's not being confirmed yet, but there's going to be a show with Kevin Campbell, but that's to be confirmed. Yeah. But yeah, that's what's coming up. So yeah, please do go over and subscribe. I'm just close to the 2,000 milestone, so I'm literally I think it's I'm about 30 odd subs off it. So it'd be nice to.
Everybody, if you're not subscribing to the Blind Gooner, please go over there and see if maybe the Gooners podcast can push Daniel over the 2,000 mark. If you're not already subscribed, you are coming up quickly on us. We're at about 2,050 or something like that. So when you pass us, you'll no longer be coming on the pod. But I'll be happy for you.
Listen, mate, I doubt I'll pass you. No.
We get one new subscriber every 3 weeks. It's great.
But thanks for having me on. It's been great. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Long time coming, and it won't be the last time. And I hope that you'll have me on yours as well at some point. I'd love to.
Yeah, definitely.
I can't hold a candle to your guest lineup for this week. Those are some of my favorite people. So please go enjoy and watch. James, where can we hear you, see you, listen to your rock music and?
Yeah, I don't do any music. That's my brother. He's the musician. LL Cool James 91. That's the Twitter handle. And then Purely Arsenal podcast. We haven't done one for a couple of weeks as we've not wanted to. We've not really wanted to talk about what's been going on. So we might do one this week.
We fell into that trap for a while. It's like, I call myself the Obama Yang of podcasters because when we lose, I don't really want anyone. I don't want to be like dealing with it. But when we win, I'm perfectly happy to talk about it.
Yeah. No. We might do one, we might not. And then James Johnstone Football's my own channel, but I haven't done a video on that for nearly 3 months. But if you do want to sub, that's great because I might go back to it. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that. I noticed that there wasn't one recently, so I didn't know if I should bring it up or not. There's
no.
I a Twitter handle for that too.
I'm very lazy.
Well, you've been a great guest. I appreciate it.
I appreciate being asked on. No, thank you.
I know it's a long time coming. And Mikey, we'll be on together soon. I'm actually maybe not going to be on the open mic podcast this week. We have to figure that out. I'll be in Florida, house hunting, and maybe I'll be watching the game on Thursday with Aston Mack, who's one of our new, relatively new friends. He's been on the open mic show. Awesome guy. He lives about 2.5 hours from where I'm going to be, and he's coming down for the day to hang out and watch our club. Hopefully. Do some things against Villarreal, and I will be breaking my diet that day to imbibe beer and watch the club. And so maybe we'll see me back at the hotel an hour afterwards for open mic night. Otherwise, I'll have to talk to my crew to see who can pick up the slack. But visit our open mic shows an hour after the final whistle at gooneropenmic.com if you want to be on it, and then just watch our Twitter for the link to the actual show if you just want to watch it. Mikey, it's been great. Appreciate your comments. Very passionate, meaningful comments from you today about your upbringing, and I mean I've gotten to know you a lot better. I thought you were just some cunt who likes jazz.
Not too far off. One day we got to share this jazz story of ours because it's quite a romantic.
It was romantic. You and my wife hanging out enjoying jazz together while I was off pissing and ordering more beer. I mean, that's really romantic.
That's very romantic. I would recommend that nobody tries to keep up with Mike in drinking first and foremost, because he almost killed me because I tried to keep up with him, and that's a battle that you're gonna end up losing. But Mike, no, dude. As always, you brought me into this podcast with welcoming arms. Little did I know it's because Andy was quitting apparently.
It wasn't because of that. I didn't even know that when we had, maybe Andy knew that, but like Owen came in and then you came in and I was like, oh, great. Now we got 4 people and but
thanks for having me on, man. It's been a pleasure. I also host a podcast called Not Another Arsenal Podcast because there's not enough podcasts out there. And so it's very important to crack some content out. And I felt that I'm doing my duty and started. So, yeah, check us out. It's a once-a-week podcast, Not Another Arsenal Podcast. Very small in numbers currently, but hey ho, Spaghettio. It's fun nonetheless.
It's good stuff. And the guys that you have on that podcast, Kelly and Chris and Sebi,
superb, dude.
They're look. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. They're American, but by God, do they know their stuff? Yes. And they're. I mean, they each bring something to the podcast, and you'll be seeing them on our channel as well. They each bring something to the podcast a little unique as far as their knowledge, their approach, their viewpoints. It's a really good panel you've put together. Sebi is friggin' hilarious. I love that guy, and he's the one that's responsible for Ostrich, Berg, Leno, and for all of these other things here. So if you want to actually see Sebi podcast, and he does a couple of podcasts, one of the funniest guys I've ever met in the Arsenal universe, and so definitely check it out. Not Another Arsenal Podcast, and we'll see if we can make an offer to buy the podcast and bring it onto the Gooners pod and see how that goes. So, in any case,
we're also members of Spotify.
Yes, we are on Spotify.
Potentially part-time owners.
I've reached out to Daniel Eck and have invited him on our podcast. If marketing genius that he is, if he wants to get his word out to literally like dozens of people, we can help him with that. So Don Juan has just subscribed to the Blind Gooner channel. Because we need more Arsenal podcasts, I'm going to start one called The Fat Gooner Watches the Blind Gooner, and I'm going to do commentary on your podcast.
Okay. This is where my job is to step in and say, Mike, end the podcast. You're rambling.
Okay. I guess we'll do it. So I shall say, come on, you Gooners. Where's the hold on, there's one more thing I want to put on here. Where is it? Can't find it.